So, good afternoon. It is now noon, and it is time for Matt Morey. I'm the C4 leader, and another leadership quote of the day. I'm doing something a little different today. I've got my Periscope set up on a stick. A selfie stick. So I'm trying to learn something new and see how this works so that I'm not holding the camera. This way you can see a full body shot. I got my office set up behind me. Today's quote comes from a gentleman named Hoffer, who I don't blame you if you've never heard of him before, because to be perfectly honest, he died in 1983, and it took a little research for me to learn about him. He's an American moralist and philosopher. He won a presidential award for freedom back in the 80s, and his quote, and I thought it was very pertinent, his quote is, "The leader has to be practical and a realist. Practical and a realist, yet must talk the language of the visionary and the idealist. Yet must talk the language of the visionary and idealist." Now, why is this so important? Because so often, especially leaders in upper management, tend to get wrapped up in the vision statements, in the mission statements, in the goals, and the extrapolations along those lines, but they don't couch it in the terms of realism. And leaders need to be realists. We need to know what we can accomplish and what we can actually manage. And so often that gets missed. So really, we need to be practical with our goals and realistic with what we can accomplish, but we need to be able to possess it and present it in an idealistic way so that others will buy in and follow us down that path. Now, from my own personal perspective, I thought that this was ideal because so often we idealize leadership and we talk about where having the grand visions or the big missions and those gigantic goals, because if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you'll hit the stars, or shoot for the, I don't remember the exact quote. To me, it was always one of those, if you go for the moon and you miss and you end up shooting for the stars, then you're not going to have enough supplies to get there. But that's the practical and realist in me doing that. I see that my camera's having a little bit of a hard time adjusting for the lighting, so that's, I guess, the next step that we're going to work on here. What comments and questions do you guys have from leadership perspective? From my perspective, this is one of those things where we get too wrapped up in the idealistic, and we need to take it back to making sure that we're being realistic with our expectations and what we can actually accomplish, and do those baby steps in order to achieve what we think we can. Now, I know it's not the typical response that most people are looking for. And so with that in mind, I'm going to center myself just a little bit more. I'm going to share a couple of things about the space behind me so that you guys understand. That little yellow screen there is for what piece of paper, is construction paper that's there. That's it, right there. That's there for when I do webcams and webinars so that when I have lighting, it doesn't flush me all out and it gives me a better screen. The yellow sticky notes is part of a much larger dry erase board that I'm working on. And that dry erase board is there for the purpose of stories. I'm collecting stories for future presentations and speeches. Each stage, so you see the black lines, is a different section of my life and the lessons learned associated with it. The towel is covering a printer. I do that so that muffles noise. Sometimes the printer activates and can pick up some noise, or helps muffle the noise while I'm doing these webinars or while I'm doing these presentations. Again, I'm Matt Morey. I'm the C4 leader. I hope you enjoyed this. I wanted you to get a feel for what my office is starting to shape up to be. We're in the middle of a lot of rework in a lot of different places. As always, I'm committed that you will get more with Morey. Here's to you and your team exploding into success.